I want to continue this line of questioning, though, because I look at in your prepared statement, Mr. Administrator, you indicate that we can stay on track to launch astronauts to the ISS from American soil by the end of 2017 if Congress fully funds your 2015 budget request. That budget request is $848.3 million. And last year you received 696.
696. Yes, yes.
So the choice for Congress is that in order for you to commit to making that 2017 date, we have to commit to the 848.3. Is
yes,
that correct?
That's correct.
And in addition to that, I want to know then what your confidence level is if we are at 848.3.
My confidence level of making 2017, if we're 848.3, is good. It is high for making 2017. My confidence level for making 2017 with robust competition is not as high. You know, that's the reason that we put $150 million into the Opportunity Fund, because that would get us to $1 billion.
I want to get to what informs your confidence, because
Bill Gerstenmaier.
There hasn't. Well, I want to know. Well, we had requested, the committee requested an independent cost estimate that wasn't done, and so tell me what the basis is for your 2017 confidence level.
My basis for everything every statement I make before this committee is my leadership team, and Bill Gerstenmaier heads up the human exploration and mission operations. Until I get half as smart as they are, that's going to be my. And we're also talking to industry. People, you know, we are dependent on American industry contributing the major portion of what is going into the Commercial Crew Program. We are able to stay on track so far because I don't know how much SpaceX, Boeing, Sierra Nevada has put of their own personal funds into Commercial Crew. I know they put more than we have. So the difference to keep us on track has been because the companies are expecting that we will fully fund it at one of these days, and they continue to up their investment would be my guess.
So let me just ask, so with the 2014 enacted levels of funding for SLS Orion and what you requested, resulting then, you're saying, in the slip to 2017.
No, the 2017 slip came long before 2014.
That.
Yeah.
So what, if Congress doesn't fund fully at 848.3, what development activities will have to be delayed in order to accommodate?
Milestone achievements on the part of the commercial crew providers, compliance with human rating standards and other requirements. They will, because they'll be under contract when we award the contract, we'll have to stretch that contract out. That's what always happens. You have less money. We have two things we can work with. We can work with cost and schedule. If I don't have enough money, the schedule stretches out. It always does. In Commercial Crew under the Space Act agreement, I didn't have to worry as much about the cost because that was a partnership. And so the companies were also putting in money as necessary to make sure that they stayed on track with their milestones.
So let me just ask again, and maybe you have it, but can you provide to us the independent cost assessment that was done that informs your belief and your confidence in the 2017 date
yes,
for Commercial Crew?
I am told that will be available shortly, and so we will get that to the subcommittee.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're counting on that.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Administrator. Yes, and then I want to ask you on Commercial Crew. I'm concerned about the possibility of a premature selection of Commercial Crew transportation service provider and how that translates into safety for our astronauts. So the Aerospace Safety Advisory Panel, the ASAP, recommended in its annual report for 2013 that competition be maintained until safety confidence is achieved. So how are you dealing with these safety considerations? And if we're going to keep the process open for competition, how do you inject safety in there?
We inject safety by putting the competition in and writing contracts that allow us to get into the facilities and levy additional regulations if necessary, or requirements. We are confident right now. We just went through a contract process, or we're in the middle of a contract process right now. It's called Commercial Crew Capabilities Assessment, and it is the contract that over the last year has allowed us to work with the companies. We asked them, demonstrate to us how you're going to meet our safety standards. Demonstrate to us how you're going to document meeting those safety standards. Show us how you're going to handle hazard reports. We're already doing that with them, and we have worked with them for years to reach agreements on what those standards would be. They can meet or exceed NASA standards, and in many cases, that's exactly what they're going to do. So they will cite their own standard.
So my time has more than expired, but let me just read to you from the ASAP annual report. Quote, if NASA down selects to one provider before the selectee has demonstrated that its design can meet the required level of safety, there is the ultimate potential that the provider may not be able to meet the requirements for a number of reasons, including cost. In such a situation, NASA will have little alternative, because it's already down selected, those are my words, but to either move the safety goalpost or to incur an overrun and or a schedule slip. If competition is maintained, NASA may have alternatives other than accepting a less safe design, unnecessary higher cost, or a late delivery. I only share that with the committee and you because it's very clear that if we move toward one, depending on what our budget numbers are, then the likelihood that we are not paying the kind of attention in commercial crew to safety actually goes up, not down.
No, ma'am. The likelihood that we are going to pay less attention to safety is zero. Safety is something that I do, that Bill Gerstenmaier does, that the Commercial Crew Program Manager does, and that is our attention to safety is independent of cost. We may become even more vigilant, which means the schedule is really going to stretch out because we're going to require additional tests. That's what happens when you don't have competition. The vendor begins to think that, okay, you're relying on me, you've got to have it at this date, and you have to take what we want. That's not the case.
You mentioned, I thought you had misspoken, that the industry participants of the Commercial Crew Program were providing more money than NASA. That doesn't seem to be the information that we have. So is it possible for you to provide the committee with the amounts that each of the, even at some level, the amounts that each of the industry participants is putting in and NASA, so that we can see that? Because otherwise, I think all of us are under the impression that NASA, that the taxpayer is actually providing the bulk of the support for commercial crew.
As I said,
is that wrong?
I will take that for the record.
Okay, thank you. And then you also, I mean, and you can hear that, I don't think we've coordinated our questions for you, but what you can hear is a concern around the asteroid retrieval mission. And so I wonder if you would be prepared by a date certain to provide the committee with a roadmap and the analysis of the various options that there would be, testing different kinds of technology for this plan to Mars. And so some of us, for example, have thought, well, maybe the Moon makes sense as a sort of test bed. Others, the ISS, and others, the asteroid retrieval mission, and or maybe some combination. But when would you be able to provide a roadmap with the analysis comparing these options and the technologies that would be derived to the committee?
Congresswoman, I'll go back. It was my impression, because I keep referring to it every time I come forward, we have two matrices. One shows human ratings, human performance, human concerns. The other one shows technology gaps. And we have had that. I look at that. I've been looking at it for a couple of years, and I thought we made that available to the committee, which shows these are things that we are accomplishing on the International Space Station. These are things that we will accomplish with the asteroid redirect mission. But I will take that for the record and go back and make sure we have shared those matrices with your staffs and with you, because I thought we had done
what about lunar? I mean, so here's what we're wrestling with here. We have some different ideas on this committee about what makes sense, but if you all aren't providing us with a real roadmap that outlines the technologies and then maybe says, here's our scientific analysis about why this doesn't make sense over the other, it would help us to make a more informed decision from a budget perspective and from an authorizing perspective of what it is that we need to, to look at. And I think that the questions that you've heard on the committee go to that point. I mean, it would help the chairman and I very much to have that in hand, and it would help for you to say, here's a date certain by which NASA can give that to us. Okay. I want to incorporate that date, quite frankly, if we're to do an authorization, because then we can come back and evaluate what makes sense going forward, and that deeply impacts budget. And don't leave the moon out, because you can hear the concern here on the committee.
We won't leave the moon out, but
I'm not saying that's where I am personally.
Well, but I'm just saying I can state with certainty the reason the moon, we don't talk about it, is because there is no technological advantage to go to the moon. There is no challenge technologically to go to the lunar surface except money.
Okay, so in providing something to this committee, it would be very helpful to have that analysis, to have the scientific, sort of basis for that decision, and also to have the buy-in collectively from the community about a direction, because I think if we had that, we'd make some very important decisions about what direction
we will attempt to do that. I have to caution, hoping that the community, whichever community you're talking about, if you're talking about the science community, hopefully buy-in is not all will agree. That will never happen.
Okay.
There is the lunar community, and they are not in favor of anything. Now we're talking about ideologues. So there is a community.
Give us an analysis, and then let us know who's for and against. I mean, an analysis that will help us in our decision making, so that what you want and what NASA needs is for this committee all to be on the same page about the direction. That will help you as well as it will help us. Thank you.